We're Emily and Jon, and here's a look at the last year of our lives, bringing back to life this abandoned coal miners' caravan park in West Wales. And a special thank you to Fiverr for sponsoring today's video.
So here's a recap for anyone new here. We moved onto the land in a small 20-year-old caravan with our dog Maggie. We sold our home and everything we owned to buy the land outright, leaving us with just £500 in the bank. So we needed to work hard for the next 12 months at our full-time jobs so we could build up our funds again, and every day off and spare hour we weren't at work was spent here, cleaning and removing the decades of rubbish that had been left behind. We didn't have the budget for big machinery or hired help, so we just did what we could with our own two hands. The first 12 months living here with no budget to progress felt like we were wasting time, but we managed to remove and recycle over 26 tonnes of rubbish from our land. So even though it was hard not to think we should be further ahead, we were so happy we had managed to clear our land by hand with no budget and now have a blank canvas and money saved to finally start our build.
After 12 months being on the land, the first thing we paid for was an excavator driver to come and help us roughly level the ground and remove some old tree stumps. Our land came with planning permission for 3 residential cabins, so our dream is to self-build our own tiny home and also make a business on the land, with our own guest cabins and glamping site.
Our digger driver Ben did such an amazing job clearing the area where the old caravans used to be, and it was hard to believe just how different it looked completely empty. This was the before, and now this was the after.
As our land came with planning permissions for park homes, we have to follow the BS 3632 British standard for our cabin build. This states it has to be sited onto a hard standing, so we started work levelling and compacting the ground, ready to add 150mm of sub-base on top to meet our building guidelines, and then a concrete slab will be going on top of this. Once the sub-base was compacted down, we then started work building a shuttering frame for the concrete slab. We put a sheet of plastic DPM down and then added our rebar mesh onto spacers on top and tied them all together. The next morning the concrete lorry arrived. This was our first ever time using concrete, so we were really nervous. Thankfully we had found 2 extra pairs of hands to help us get it right.
While we were waiting for the concrete base to cure, we spent some time building our chicken coop ready to welcome our first animals to the land. We love the idea when we have guests staying in the future, we will be able to use the eggs from our chickens in our guest welcome baskets, so we thought this was a great idea. We moved the girls into their new coop and they were right at home. Next we started work on some decking. As we mentioned, we want to have a glamping site for guests, so decided to work on this first. That way we also have somewhere for friends and family to stay when they're visiting. This is a mock-up of our glamping site area we had done, and this is the inspiration for the new space. Now the deck was complete, it was time to put up the glamping tent. Next we started work on our raised bed garden. We didn't want to miss the opportunity to start growing our own food on the land this summer. So we spent some time levelling the old caravan base, removing the excess soil, so we could then create a retaining wall for the garden. We rolled out our geotechnical fabric, put together our raised beds, and then we were ready to add our gravel. Raised beds in place, it was time to fill them up and start growing our veg.
We hired in local fencing contractors Craig and Dye to help secure our boundaries. They used larch posts and high tension livestock mesh. They also dug a culvert to help improve the drainage on our land. While the fencers were hard at work, we spent some time in the garden building another raised bed to help increase our growing space.
As we have no facilities on site, we currently make do with an outdoor shower and camping toilet. We decided to start work preparing the base for our future toilet and shower block. Our glamping guests will also have their own key to their own ensuite bathrooms too. Here's a little look at what it will look like.
Once we'd levelled the ground for the shower block, we used some old decking boards that we found on the land to make some frames to pour our concrete pillars into. We added our sub-base and compacted it down, then it was time to mix and pour our concrete. These will act like feet for our shower block to fit on top of. We left the concrete feet to cure, and then it was time to move our chassis into place to start our tiny house build. We can't build directly onto the ground, we have to build on the chassis due to our planning permission our land allows. Our chassis had some surface rust, as it had been left out in the elements for a few months by this point, so we spent some time sanding it back, and then we painted on some rust converter before moving it onto our concrete slab.
We then gave it a quick sanding so we could give it a top coat of paint for some extra protection before we start work building the floor. If you didn't know, we work full-time as wedding photographers and candle makers. We aren't builders, we've never done a project like this before, and I've just been learning as we go, doing the work on the land on our days off when we get paid from our full-time jobs. Once the floor was on, we attached rodent mesh all under the chassis to make sure no animals decided to make this their home. Then we moved on to our insulation. We used a non-combustible mineral wool insulation for the floor that is made specifically for timber frame buildings like ours. Insulation done, we then added our flooring on top, which was a special water-resistant material. As we live in Wales, we knew we didn't want to risk water damaging what we had already built. We then started work building and framing our cabin walls. Now the walls are up, we thought we would show you a digital mock-up of our cabin and the inspiration for this build. One thing that has really helped us visualise our plans for the site has been working with digital architects to bring our vision to life and see what would work best in each area of our land. And we found our architect on Fiverr. Jon and I are long-term Fiverr users and first used Fiverr when we started this YouTube channel 2 years ago. We paid a digital designer on Fiverr to create this on-screen animated graphic which we use in all our videos. And we're so excited to have Fiverr sponsoring today's video. If you're new to Fiverr, they are an incredible online platform that connects you to talented freelancers from all over the world. From web designers to video editors, architects, marketing professionals and more, the options are endless. Over the last 2 years since we started this project, we've worked with a variety of Fiverr freelancers to help us bring our vision to life. Yop KW put together this map of our land to first help us plan where everything would go. Jessica 3D designed our cabin build along with our shower block mock-up you saw earlier, and a Riff architect designed our guest glamping site. As much as we try and do everything ourselves with this project, architecture is one skill we don't have, and Fiverr have been amazing at helping us visualise all our plans. What we love most about Fiverr is the variety of skilled professionals available, and how easy it is to navigate through each of the freelancers' portfolios, read real reviews and see previous work delivered through the platform. It allowed us to see firsthand the quality of work each freelancer could deliver, which really helped us find the right architect and designer for each of our projects. So if you'd like to see what project Fiverr can help you with, head to fiverr.co/campoutwest and get 10% off your first order with our code CAMP. Thanks again to Fiverr for sponsoring this video, and we will put all the links to all the Fiverr creators we've used for our project in the description below for anyone interested in getting something similar. And now you've got a better idea of our vision for our land, we'll get back to the build. So now we'd built the first 3 walls, we needed to move our big picture frame window into the cabin before building the 4th wall, as there would be no other way to fit it in place. The window was so heavy, we paid our neighbour to come and help us fit it into the cabin with their tractor. Window in, it was now time to build the final wall. Walls complete, we ordered our roof trusses and headed down to their factory to see how they were made. While we were waiting for the roof trusses to be delivered, we built a small greenhouse in our garden so we could make the most of the upcoming spring. The greenhouse would allow us to have a space we could grow our veg early from seed. The next week our roof trusses were delivered and we started work sheathing the walls of our cabin in OSB. For us, we found the hardest part of this build has just been our time and money. As we do this project or on our full-time jobs, we're limited to when we can do the work. We also buy everything paycheck to paycheck, so have natural breaks in our progress while we work to save up our funds again before we can buy our next load of materials. Our goal with this project is to do everything completely debt-free, which does mean we have a lot slower progress, but we didn't want the stress of being in over our heads in debt or buying things on credit cards or finance. Everything we do or buy on the land, we completely own outright, so even though our progress is slow, we don't have any debt or big monthly payouts to worry about.
Now the walls were covered in OSB, we taped the seams and we were ready to add our breathable membrane. Building wrapped, we then started work on the roof. First we had to cut all the birds' mouths into the roof trusses and then we were ready to fit them into place. Trusses up, we then attached our gable ends. While we were waiting for our roofing sheets to be delivered, we decided to use up all of our offcuts of materials we had left over from the build to build a laundry station on the land. Over the last year and a half, we've been going to a local laundrette to wash all our clothes, so we thought building this would save us a lot of money in the long run. A few days later, our roofing sheets arrived, so it was time to get them fixed into place. We taped up all the seams and then attached our eaves trays, before adding our membrane and batten on top. We cut out where our skylight was going to go and had a neighbour come and help us fit it into place. It was time to add the rest of our cabin windows. We opted to use a waterproof tape method to seal all our windows. We had friends come to help us lift and fit our big picture frame window. Next, we had French drains installed. As our land is clay soil and we get a lot of rain, we were really hoping this would help dry out the ground. Now the windows are in and the cabin was watertight, we started working doing the insulation on the inside. Next, we start building an internal wall for our bathroom. We also put together a pocket door kit, which will help us maximise the space in the cabin. Next, we sealed in all our windows with spray foam, and once it had all dried, we cut it flush and sealed it over with our airtight tape. Windows sealed, it was time to add our superfoil insulation on top. We want our cabin to be as efficient and cheap to heat as possible, and we're hoping this will help our cabin stay warmer in the winter and cooler in the summer. wall insulation done, we fitted our fascia boards outside so we could then start work cladding our roof and get our building completely watertight and ready for the winter to arrive. We added some mesh on the outside to stop any bugs or birds potentially nesting on the underside of our roof.
Now it's time to add our metal cladding on, and that brings you to the present day and our most recent job on the cabin complete. Our dream is to be in the cabin and out of our caravan for Christmas. So with only 2 months to go until Christmas Day, the countdown is officially on. So if you'd like to see where the next 2 months take us and follow along with the rest of our cabin build, don't forget to subscribe. We hope you've enjoyed watching our progress over the last 12 months, and hopefully it can remind you that it's okay to take your time. People tell us all the time that we're too slow or not working fast enough, but we just don't have the time or funds to go any quicker. As we are working around our full-time jobs and doing it when we get paid without any debt, that is the most important thing to us. We really appreciate everyone that watches and all of you that have offered us advice and support along the way. We're excited to see where the next 12 months take us. See you next time. Thanks again to Fiverr for sponsoring this video. Head to fiverr.co/campoutwest and get 10% off your first order with our code CAMP.